This radio show is a paid placement. Welcome to Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. Mindy McIntosh, the founder and president of McIntosh & Associates. Mindy started the company back in 2004. Nolan McIntosh, after his illustrious career in the athletic training world with his doctorate from Andrews University in physical therapy, he joined the team in 2018. So Nolan handles the market type questions because the team at McIntosh & Associates can help you in the investment world. They can help you in the insurance world. But really, more importantly, what they can do is help you create a plan. The Dream-Focused Wealth Plan is really about income, investments, taxes, healthcare, estate planning. What about Social Security? It's in the income part. What about Medicare? It's in the healthcare part. That's a lot of moving pieces. If you want to find out more about Mindy and Nolan and the team at McIntosh & Associates, I encourage you to go to the website, wealthmichigan.com. wealthmichigan.com. You can always give them a call. There's no cost, no obligation. 877-222-8849. 877-222-8849. Hey, Mindy, Nolan, how are you? You guys had a phenomenal trip that you had the ability to take. We're going to talk about that in our final segment today. You doing okay? You back on your Michigan legs?
We are. Our girls have said it's been an amazing summer for us. It's been, they say best summer ever. And part of it's because, for last couple summers here, some of our clients and prospective clients knows that when Mindy's dad was ill with cancer, that we spent a lot of time with him. Not that it wasn't great. It was really great, but we spent a lot of time with him up in the thumb. But now we're kind of being able to, unfortunately, obviously, when I'm saying that Mindy's dad had passed, obviously that was still difficult. But now we're back to, being able to do some more trips and stuff with the girls. And it's been good. But, it's one of those things that, we had a phenomenal trip here that we'll talk about in the fourth segment.
So spending time in the outdoors, especially for us, is always great. The weather's been wonderful, and we've really been able to have some great quality time and tons of laughs.
Mm-hmm. So while you guys were off gallivanting the world with your three kids, which is an awesome trip, while you were gone, the Fed raised the interest rates for the fourth time this year. So March, the Federal Reserve raised the interest rates. They're doing it to fight inflation. But in March, it was a 0.25% bump in the interest rates. May, it was 0.5%. And in June and July, both were 0.75% bumps. And they have three more meetings in September, November, and December, and they'll probably bump it a little. We don't really know how it'll play out. Mindy, how do you look at the interest rate bumps? Because interest rates going up at CDs and money markets and all that, the money that our grandparents could get really easily because they had high interest rates in the 70s and 80s, that was an easy time to create money. They had pensions, they had Social Security, and they had high interest rates at the bank. Get a CD. You had a lot of easy money you could get. Today, the challenge really for retirees is income. So Sure. It's not like it's automatically, CD rates to go flying up, but how do interest rates impact retirees?
Well, rates of what they can receive on, some retirement income vehicles have gone up. So what's nice is that you're right. So many folks, when this has happened in the past, they had Social Security or a pension to lean back on. When we're seeing our folks that are preparing for retirement now, they have to create their own leg to that stool. And so we know Social Security isn't enough. So what we're helping them do, even in times like now, when some folks are still, feel like they have a little bit too much market risk or might feel a little fearful or not sure, oh my gosh, interest rates keep going up and things are costing more and whole stumbling blocks that they're having. And so what we're able to do is help utilize some of their retirement assets and create an indexing instrument to give them some guaranteed income in retirement that can increase. And a lot of times we're using an indexed annuity to do so. So that way, in times where the market's up, they're participating with a participation with that. They can have income payout increases. And we know then that at least a portion of that money is secure. They're not going to have a market loss. And it's a true income for life to start, hedging and helping with what they're seeing with inflationary numbers. And when you see it, this just keep hitting increase. It's making folks more aware of, hey, I really need to buckle down and focus on my journey.
And we call it the savers. We talked about this even when we had Marty Ruby come in a couple weeks back and talk about taxes, but we call it the saver's dilemma. The issue is that, a lot of people are like, we talked about, CD rates are going up. Well, that's fantastic. But the problem is, even when we talk about, when your parents were getting double-digit interest rates on CDs, well, so was inflation. So the saver's dilemma is, hey, I want to have some safety there, but the problem is you're not going to usually get a rate of return that's going to hedge inflation enough. And so that's kind of where we're sitting right now. If we look at last year, when we had inflation at 1.75%, even though you're earning 0% interest in the bank, that was still better than what we're doing now, where you're maybe getting 2, maybe if you're lucky 3%, but yet inflation's still at 8.6%. Well, you're still losing way more now than you were when it was at 1.75% inflation. So we try and make sure that we're hedging for that inflation, and just throwing money into a CD is sometimes too conservative enough, and it doesn't allow us to make it because obviously things are still costing more. So it's one of the things we always want to look at.
Bottom line really is we want to make sure that folks don't outlive their money. It's still one of the biggest questions.
Oh.
I mean, day after day, week after week, when folks come in, they want a sense of when the day comes that I'm going to retire, go more part-time, whatever might be happening, they just want to make sure, am I going to have enough money? And that's what this can do, is to help create that situation for you so we don't have to worry about outliving, the money or the assets that you have.
So again, if you have questions about any of this, when interest rates go up, bond values go down. And that's what happens the closer you get to retirement in your 401k, more money's in the bond side. If you're over 59 and a half, Nolan and the team and McIntosh and Associates would be happy to look at your 401k. You can do an in-service distribution, move it into an IRA where you have maybe a little bit more control and can put it into some areas maybe where you actually get some benefit. Here's the number. If you want to talk with Mindy and Nolan, it's 877-222-8849. There's no cost. There's no obligation for this. They're here to help. They just don't know if they can help you till you reach out. 877-222-8849. So that being said about interest rates, it does cause a problem with our bonds, because when interest rates go up, bonds go the opposite way. So if interest rates are falling, bonds would be going up. But Nolan, how's the overall market? Because the market was terrible there for a while. Then it kind of rebounded, and then it's just kind of waffling. Is that what we should probably expect the rest of the year?
Yeah, I would. You remember, Guy, we look at this globally too, right? I mean, it's not just a United States problem, it's global. First time in a long, ever, the euro, which was formed not too long ago, was actually in parity, meaning about the same as what the US dollar was, which is interesting. So we know that globally we have some issues on the economy side, but even here, more locally, I think everybody's getting excited because inflation, the July numbers came down from June, but we're still at 40-year highs. So that's not necessarily exciting when you look at it from that perspective. So I think we're still going to have some waffling. I think there's some issues, particularly in the technology sector. We still have supply chain issues with semiconductors. We still have people we're talking about jobs claims and things of that nature, and creation of new jobs. And really, when we look at this, I think there's a little bit of a smoke and mirrors when we talk about new jobs created. Well, it's technically not new jobs created. They're just filling the positions that were open from pre-COVID. So we have to be careful on where we're going. So that's why, when we look at market accounts, we're saying, okay, what sectors should we be looking at? And we try to be contrarian in our style. Possibilities of looking at maybe technology sector, because the NASDAQ is the one that's, obviously just now, as of yesterday, came out of what we call bear territory, which is a 20% loss from its prior high. And then, the S&P 500 and Dow Jones are just now starting to come out of what we call correction territory, which is 10%. So we are looking through things, and we're making sure that we're looking at, certain sectors and making sure for our clients that we're trying to, I call it feather through, kind of this interesting time. But I don't necessarily expect that we're probably going to have, this is going to be one of the 20% years. And we've kind of talked about this all year, to be honest with you, that this is going to be one of the 20% years that the market's going to be down for the year. And then hopefully, come next year, if inflation gets controlled and interest rates start to calm down, then hopefully we'll get back to positive. But really, we want to try and, for our clients, be in the asymmetrical investing strategies, meaning, benchmarking when the market goes up and benchmarking when it goes down, but not participating and trying to beat the market on either side. So that's kind of the important role that we try and play on the market side.
So, Mindy, about a minute and a half left in this first segment. We got a lot of show to get to, a lot of topics to cover today on the program. When people get confused and get nervous, it's a great time to sit down with somebody that actually works in the retirement world like you and your team at McIntosh and Associates. What would that be like? If they call 877-222-8849, Nolan's going to come in, tie them up, make sure they can't leave. And that's not how it works, right? That's not how it works.
Well, we focus on them first. So we do a discovery visit, and I sit down with them and really find out, what are you hoping to accomplish, or what have been on your mind? Where might you be worried, or what are you excited about? So we can focus on that why. From there, we're going to walk through a bunch of different items in what I call opportunity zone of, where are you working? What energizes you? And where are you spending your money? And, what does your health look like and your health care? And what do you have for an insurance plan? And will you have health care when you retire? And are we budgeting for a new premium or just co-pays and health? And then what happens as far as the tax and estate planning side? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Who's helping you there? and just monitoring and managing the investment side and taking a look at what is their risk? How comfortable are they with that? Has somebody been helping them make some choices in their investment decisions? And are they mainly pre-tax, or have they been more tax favorable for retirement to pay less money in taxes later? Or is that part of the plan that we need to help them with? And then carving out and taking a look at where is your guaranteed income going to come from, and how are you going to sustain this, now and through retirement. So we called our Dream Focus Wealth Plan to make sure income and expenses, taxation, healthcare, long-term care, investments, and just what makes them feel good at the end of the day are all measurable, and we keep it nice and simple for them. So reach out to the office, go to our website at wealthmichigan.com, stop in here and set up a visit, and we'd be happy to meet with you, or by all means call 877-222-8849 and let's just start a plan.
Hey, we're just getting started with Mindy and Nolan on Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. We got a lot to get to. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
According to the U.S. debt clock, in the time you hear this commercial, our nation's debt will go up by $1.5 million. That's $2 billion a day, $15 billion a week. Right now, our debt is more than $30 trillion and climbing fast. The question is, how do we pay it off? The answer is increasing taxes. Now, think about your retirement accounts. Do you want to pay taxes on some of that money now, when rates are historically low, or later, when rates are potentially higher? Whether you should pay taxes now or in retirement depends on a lot of things. Mindy and Nolan McIntosh and the team at McIntosh & Associates know what to look for. Mindy and Nolan can help you create a plan so your retirement is as tax efficient as possible. Call 877-222-8849 to set up a visit with Mindy and Nolan McIntosh and McIntosh & Associates. That's 877-222-8849. Firm offers insurance services and may not give tax advice. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Get started today to develop your own dream-focused wealth plan with the team at McIntosh & Associates. Schedule a complimentary first visit today. Call 877-222-8849.
Glad you're with us today for Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan. The team is here to help you come up with a plan for your retirement. The Dream Focus Wealth Plan, as Mindy has always said and Nolan has said, it starts with a discovery meeting, the analysis of your situation. Is there a solution that the team at McIntosh & Associates can help you with? They will present that to you. Then if you go, hey, I'd really like your help, well, then they implement the plan. Then it's always got to be updated because life happens, things change, right? So the importance is putting a plan in that gives you some confidence and clarity heading into retirement. And then obviously keeping it updated. Things happen. Things change. The team can certainly do that. You can find out more about Mindy and Nolan and the team at wealthmichigan.com, wealthmichigan.com. You can always give them a call, 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. And, of course, the McIntosh & Associates office located in Freeland. They serve the Tri-City area. And if you can hear the show, you want to come in, great. They're here to help if they can. All right, I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. Here's the deal. There's these 4 words that when you hear them, it can kind of send a little panic through you. Now, I'm going to say Nolan has never said this to Mindy. So my question to Nolan is, has Mindy ever said this to Nolan? Nolan, we need to talk. Because you've never said that to Mindy.
No, she just knows by my face. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know if we ever had we need to talk.
We need to talk. You guys communicate well.
Yeah, I think so. I think we do. I think it's one. And so that's why people ask us all the time, how can you guys work together? It's because we know how to communicate. Now, do we communicate differently? 100%. So it's one of those things that Mindy is definitely different than me, personality-wise, which is okay. We love it. But we definitely know how to communicate with each other. So it's usually not a we need to talk. It's usually something that we can cover pretty easily.
Now, I think typically, though, when we hear those words, we need to talk, we think bad, right? But we're actually going to say this is an important and a good thing. We need to talk. We're going to talk a little bit today about how in the world do you prepare as a family for the future through estate and legacy planning? Because it's really a good thing. Because we've said it before, if you want to leave behind a total mess to your family, do nothing. If you love your family, do some planning. That's all there is. There's wills, trust, and all those different things you can take advantage of. Mindy, what are some tips maybe for starting some of those tough family conversations about legacy and inheritance? Is it just spouses where it starts? Like it would start with you and Nolan, and then later down the line, you'd go to your three girls and say, here's kind of how it plays out if something would happen.
I think a lot of times it's about preparing, right? So what we've done even here is we do have some nice documents of, kind of a final planning list and a final needs list. And then we also have a financial documentation list. And all three, I think, are so important for every family at every age. We've all seen it that even people sometimes that are very young, unexpected things can happen. And by having this prepared and down on paper and talked about and agreed upon, it's really, really important. And I think as you prepare and talk about it, think about the ways to bring up certain topics that are important to you. And it can be very positive. It doesn't have to be, negative or this, Debbie Downer type of vision of just making sure, hey, let's kind of put it on paper. Let's know where things are at. Let's share kind of how we feel about different situations. So you don't leave that decision all to the loved one that might just be like, gosh, I'm just not sure. I wish I would have known. So we all have some of those woulda, coulda, shoulda, hoped to moments in life. And this is one way. And you have to set a time, set a place where you're going to be able to mentally prepare and know, hey, we're going to spend the next hour today. And maybe not everything is done today, but, and you set a limit. You don't keep talking about it, but you have things on paper. And that's why we've designed these 3 different formatted forms, because it gives you a guideline. And it doesn't mean you do all 3 at once, but you have set down. And that way, as you talk to each other, you know what the expectations are from each other. And it just makes it so much easier if you can listen. And it's okay if you don't have the exact same viewpoints and personalities, but by having this put down, we've seen it time and time again. It makes it a lot easier when things do happen. So if you're listening and you have not prepared for some of this, reach out to us. We're happy to get these 3 sets of forms in your hands to get that plan in action. And this way it gives you a spot to start. So if you set the time part and you're like, oh, I don't know where to begin, we have a very nice guide for you to be able to use.
And I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm 62. I should do this. I always think about it. So I think a lot of people are like me in that area. I can do it some other time. But we all know that things can happen so quickly. At the end of the day, Nolan, when you're getting into this area of estate and legacy planning, I think a lot of people think, well, I'm going to put that off. I'm going to wait till I'm in my 70s or 80s. That's when I need to do all that. But a lot of this is planning. And when people work with you and your team at McIntosh Associates, it's always adjusting. So the idea is put it into play, and then we'll adjust as needed, right?
You got it. So, the biggest part is getting the plan down, and then as we need to what's called amend it. So let's say we're talking about even a trust, right? If we need to amend it, that's a lot easier than come up with a whole document. So that's one of the things. And it's exactly that. We've had personal stories here. Same thing. A friend of ours, husband passed away at the age of 35. He was out fishing. Strong guy, and left 2 kids back. And just the other day, a friend of ours, 18-year-old, was riding a side-by-side, and some person came up and, hit him from behind and killed him. So it's one of those things that I know it's kind of in human nature for us to think that we're a little bit invincible, particularly when we're younger. But it's one of those things as, we start, having some more assets and we have a family and things of that nature. That's when we want it to be done. And it's one of those things that, again, Mindy kind of brought it up. It shouldn't be a negative conversation. It should be a conversation of, I want to look out for what's best for my family. So that way I know when I'm gone, they're taken care of. Even for parents, right, that are maybe older, things of that nature, sometimes, they have the connotation of, who cares when I'm dead? They'll be able to inherit, and who cares? I don't care when I'm dead. Well, in my opinion, it's kind of selfish thinking, because we've had it over time and time again where, a loved one came in and they don't know where to turn, they don't know what to do, and they're very confused and they're just distraught. And instead of being able to go through a regular grieving process, they can't, because they're so worried about, where's my next bill coming from? How am I going to take care of the kids? Or, how do I get this done? Again, I think it's a little selfish to think that, they're just going to inherit it. And the other thing is too, I don't think anybody would be happy to say, okay, now I get to go to probate because I did not do my planning correctly. And now they get to take a percentage of it that they have no right taking it, because you're the person that did the work, not them. So that's why we think it's so important, is because it allows people to emotionally be able to concentrate on what they need to concentrate on if something happens to that person. So We work with some really fantastic estate lawyers here that do a really good job of helping us and helping our clients. And if you want some information on them, just give us a call, 877-222-8849.
You know, Mindy, I think Nolan made a great point there, because I do think that we tend to put things off, but we also go, well, I'm not really sure what to do, and I'm not really sure what to do. We procrastinate because we don't really understand it. The other side of that would be, let's say, God forbid, something would happen to Nolan. We know that you would spend everything you could to make sure that he was as comfortable as possible without a lot of regard, except you work in this world, so you would have some regard for your own self and your kids. But a lot of people don't. We know, especially when Grandma and Grandpa get older, something happens to Grandpa, we know Grandma is going to just do everything she can to help, right? Make him as comfortable as possible with no real regard for herself. That is also part of this planning process, I would think, is protection for the surviving spouse so they're not Medicaid and stuck, right?
Correct. And I think what's so important is a lot of people do feel paralyzed when they're just not sure what to do, or they don't understand it, or they feel like, gosh, I should have maybe already knew what to do or done this prior. We hear that a lot. No. I sometimes say the time is now. So make sure that you know what you're willing to do, what your capabilities are, what some opportunities are, even options, right? So then that way things don't all come falling down or crashing down on you at once, let's say, and you have the opportunity to say, gosh, you know what? I can think clearly on this because I've already set a plan and I know how to stage this. So reach out to us here at 877-222-8849. None of us are invincible, and procrastination is just not the way to go.
So, as Mindy talked about, the Dream Focused Wealth Plan starts with a discovery meeting. And the discovery meeting is to find out about your hopes, dreams, and bucket list items, and then to figure out where the income's going to come from, right? Your investment strategies, too much risk, not enough risk, tax-efficient strategies, health, long-term care planning, legacy and estate planning, Social Security's in the income part, Medicare's in the healthcare part. That's a lot of moving pieces. But Nolan, if you had to guess, well, you wouldn't guess because you do this every single day at McIntosh and Associates. I think this is one of the areas. I think probably two of the biggest things would be legacy and estate planning and taxes. And I think those are the last two things people think of when it comes to retirement.
Yeah, well, it's just the old adage of you just stick money away and then worry about it later, so that's what a lot of people do. And that's part of, estate and legacy planning is if Mindy and I can help somebody out, we could possibly be able to leave their beneficiaries, something a lot better than what they're currently in, and give them some outside ideas on some tax strategies and things of that nature. So it's just not about estate planning. It's about, okay, how do we look at the overall portfolio and maybe with your legacy planning, can we do something better for what you're leaving to your heirs?
So when 2020 hit, the Secure Act, which changes the IRA, the stretch IRA, where if you're 80, you left it to a 40-year-old, they were going to live to 85. They had 45 years to take out that $1 million a little bit at a time, pay taxes as they went. Secure Act did away with that. Now that $1 million has to be taken care of, the taxes paid within a 10-year period. Have you had to make some adjustments?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's a Pandora's box, and they're going to change it again with the Secure Act 2.0. But it's one of those things that, it has been more of a challenge for us because what's happening a lot of times is really, and if you look at statistically, most of the people drawing from their 401ks are just taking out what the required minimum distribution is, and a lot of that's going to be significant. They're saying it's going to be the most significant wealth transfer of assets that the nation's ever seen, and so that's why Secure Act was enacted from that standpoint. So with that being said, we have to be smart about tax-efficient strategies on, somebody that inherits an IRA or a 401k or something of that nature because, with that 10-year timeline, if they're in their higher income earning years and now all of a sudden now they have added income they have to take, we need to start strategically planning how are we going to draw this off instead of waiting until year 10. I don't think that's a very smart thing to do and letting it grow tax-deferred. So 877-222-8849. Very easy way that hopefully we can help even people with withdrawal orders and tax strategies just from an inherited IRA standpoint.
Yeah, and there's no cost. There's no obligation to chat with the team at McIntosh and Associates. They're here to help. 877-222-8849. When we come back, we're going to continue estate and legacy planning chatter. But here's a stat from the U.S. Census Bureau. Half of all women who become widowed in the U.S. are under the age of... You won't believe it. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
If you're close to retirement, you probably hear about Medicare all the time. When to sign up, how to sign up, what your options are. But have you heard how you might be able to lower your future Medicare costs with proper planning before you retire? It's true. The McIntosh and Associates team can show you how. It's not for everyone, but you could potentially save in future Medicare premiums. See if this strategy could work for you. Call McIntosh and Associates now to set up your visit to start working on your plan. 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849. If you want to pay the lowest price for your future Medicare coverage, start planning today. Set up your visit now with the McIntosh and Associates team. Call 877-222-8849. Firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Schedule your complimentary first visit with the McIntoshes right now. Call 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849.
Welcome back to Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. You can find out more about Mindy and Nolan and the team at wealthmichigan.com. They're really here to help you create your plan, the dream-focused wealth plan for your retirement. They're retirement planners, so they can help you with income strategies, investment strategies, tax-efficient strategies, healthcare, long-term care, legacy, estate planning, which is what we're talking about today. Social Security is in the income part. Medicare is in the healthcare part. That's a lot of moving pieces. You can always find out more on the website, wealthmichigan.com, wealthmichigan.com. You can always give them a call. There's no cost for this. 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. We're talking about the importance of really planning the end to a degree. How are you going to leave things? Where are you going to leave your money? Where's this going, that going? And a lot of times it's husband to a wife. But then after that, then it's like, okay, what's going to the kids? How are we going to do this? If you're a rancher or a farmer, you have some kids that don't want to do that, but you have another kid that really wants to do that. So how do you do all of this? There's so many moving parts. One of the crazy things that comes from the U.S. Census Bureau is that half of all women who become widowed in the United States are under the age of 59. Mindy, are you surprised by that? I mean, you've been doing this since 2004. I'm hoping you don't have a ton of 50-something-year-old widows.
I'm not surprised by it. We actually do work, and probably because I'm a woman as well, but we work with a lot of widowed women. And, even on both sides of the fence, even on our couples that come in, literally just this week, one of our financial clients that, they've worked with us even on the Medicare side for, I don't know, a dozen years maybe. And his concern, and it's not always the gentleman, but his concern is just, I had made a comment as we were visiting the other day and his wife wasn't here for the visit again. And that's kind of a natural situation. And, he said, gosh, I need to have her be a little bit more involved because if something happens to me first, she's just not going to be sure what to do. And so I think even though they're working with us and yeah, sure, naturally she's going to, come into the office and we have a great relationship and we'll walk her through what needs to happen. But just having whatever spouse is kind of the leader of the finances, it can be either or. I know a lot of families kind of divide and conquer, but whoever that leader is, it's just important enough that the spouse continuously is somewhat involved to understand even some of the basics of what might be happening in the financial journey or how to make sure we're protecting one another. We talk all the time about a lot of pensions are on the wayside, and those that do have a pension, we're always looking, is there a percentage left to spouse, and what will happen with Social Security, and what's the plan for the home, and what's going to happen with the expenses and your investment accounts as well. And we look at taxation. And then, we circle back to, what are we going to be receiving tax free? And, that might be in the form of a life insurance protection or a particular asset that we're looking in a way to make sure that there, possibly is enough income for the spouse, especially if you're passing away, if one of the loved ones is passing away younger, as you've said, Mark, 59. Generally speaking, they're both still working. So how do we protect that spouse that survived with losing whatever income that other spouse was creating? So a lot of times as we look through our planning, we're really looking and focusing on kind of what would happen, what would phases be. And we do have some actually nice software that can show, okay, if something were to happen at this age or this age, what are we solving for and what are we looking at? And would this be comfortable and doable? And we can work through that together and take a look. So then that way we have some preparation in order. And, it's kind of nice to see these spouses too, making sure they're taking good care of each other. It makes it kind of fun for Nolan and I to see the nurturing side of some of the clients. So if you have not thought about this, or maybe even you're already widowed and you're thinking, gosh, I really need some help, reach out to us here at McIntosh and Associates. We'd be happy to sit down for a visit, and you can call it 877-222-8849.
Because Nolan, you think about it, they always say if you go through something traumatic like the loss of a spouse, don't make any big decisions for 6 months to a year, right? So that means if you've not done any planning, then how in the world can you make decisions when you're not thinking clearly anyway? I mean, it's really a tough situation. The importance of doing something, and you might do it, you're 30, you got kids. I better have some kind of a little bit of a plan anyway. But when you get into your 50s, it's really time to start thinking about this, especially when the average age of a widow is 59. I can't believe that still. But it's really about doing the planning that actually makes it's never easy. There's no question about that. Just the emotional, I think, hey, the government says, hey, congratulations, you were married 50 years. So now, we're going to take away one of your Social Securities, the lower of the two. We're going to maybe take some or all of your pension away. Oh, and by the way, this year, the year your spouse passed, we're going to let you file your taxes joint, but next year you got to file them singly. So now your taxes go up. I mean, there's a lot of whammies besides the emotional side of this.
Yeah, and I would argue that, 6 months sometimes if, you don't have enough income stored up or they don't know where to go, you might have to do it before 6 months. So it's one of those things that on your own, it'd be difficult. It'd be very difficult. So that's why we try and walk through and help our widows as much as we can. And unfortunately, it is. It's a tough. We unfortunately, Mindy and I have sat through a lot of recently widowed situations where they just didn't know where the pieces were. Now, granted, fortunately, some of them have been well taken care of. So the late spouse was fortunate enough to be able to set them up that way. But really, they still didn't know what to do, right, from that standpoint. But yeah, it's one of those things.
When you're in the retirement world, you're going to be dealing with that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. You got it. Yep. Yeah. And, it's one of those things as our clients get older, we see them lose a spouse. And, obviously our heart breaks for them too. But when we're working with them prior to the death, it's a much different scenario than somebody that comes in that, didn't have somebody they were working with prior. So from an emotional standpoint, I think, and even from a financial standpoint, because the people that, we have already had clients that their spouse passes, they know what the plan is. There's no wavering of that. They know that if something happens, this is how we go, and this is, you can obviously contact us first. So a lot of times we're one of the first people, which we love because our clients trust us, but we're one of the first people that they call to say, hey, unfortunately, so-and-so has passed, and, I know you guys know what to do. I just want to let you know. So obviously it's one of those things that, makes us feel good that they trust us enough to do that, but obviously we're, obviously going through that with them at the same time.
Right.
But it is important to have that plan and to hopefully get things in order before all that happens, just so that way you don't have to, worry about it when somebody passes.
So again, that number, if you'd like to chat with Mindy and Nolan and the team at McIntosh & Associates, it's 877-222-8849. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. It's really about planning, putting a plan in place, and then the plan will adjust because life happens, right? 877-222-8849. And I would think to a degree, Mindy, this is where life insurance could come in for the tax-free type of income, which is fantastic. Yeah. But also one of the challenges would be for women especially that they live longer than us anyway, typically. And if you look at a nursing home, it's 60-65% of the residents are women. So long-term care becomes a factor as well. So touch a little bit about life insurance and how it factors into this, or does it? And I suppose every situation is different. And then long-term care, how does that play out?
A lot of times what we can do, depending on health and such when we're looking at life insurance, but a lot of times what we're trying to do to help round out that, full financial plan as we look at a holistic evolution for them is having life insurance, but trying to make sure it's not just a term life where, hey, you're covered for the next 20 or 30 years at a good rate and, we'll see you down the road when the rates go way up. It's not the type of plan we like to have. So a lot of times we can use and the tax-free death benefit, either way you go, is great, right? So the tax-free death benefit, it's very simple for us to do claims that route too and make it easy on the loved one that's surviving. But a lot of times if we can use what's called a fixed index universal life and use an asset-based long-term care built into it, the nice thing about that is the fact that not only do they have life insurance, but they also have some tax-free accumulation in there that they can utilize. And also, if then it's the wife, let's say that there was a joint second to die whole life policy that has long-term care there. Let's say that the husband might have passed away first and then the wife goes into the nursing home, or vice versa. They both have a true long-term care built into their life policy without having to pay a separate long-term care premium that might go up, and they may or may not use it. So we can utilize it through assets. So life insurance is not just for a death benefit. It can be for a living benefit. It can help you when health might deteriorate, or it can help you when things happen earlier in life and you can borrow from yourself. So it just gives you more flexibility for the unknowns. And we've had a lot of folks really utilizing and tapping into that avenue, especially even just on the other side with inflation and taxation as well. So reach out to us here at McIntosh and Associates, and you can visit our website at wealthmichigan.com, and let's set a visit to get some discussions on that matter.
Yeah, and of course, you can always call as well, 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. And don't forget, on the website, wealthmichigan.com, there is the checklist challenge. And there's like 34, 35 boxes that you can check. And not every single box will need to be checked, but it kind of gives you an idea about where you are on your road to retirement. So if you'd like that, you can download that right off the wealthmichigan.com website, the checklist challenge. But again, you can always call 877-222-8849. Our final segment is next. This is Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes.
To learn more about the team at McIntosh and Associates, check out their website anytime at wealthmichigan.com.
Glad you're with us today for Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan, office located in Freeland, of course, serving the Tri-City area. The team is here to help you come up with your plan, and it is your plan. When Mindy and Nolan sit down with clients, prospective clients, everybody's situation is different. Everybody has probably a little bit different income needs. They have different investment thoughts and strategies on their mind, and some are really good with risk, others are terrible with risk. So everybody's situation is different. The Dream Focused Wealth Plan is about whomever they're sitting down with, how do they make it better and give you more confidence and more clarity heading into retirement. 877-222-8849 is the number, 877-222-8849. Of course, you can always find out more, wealthmichigan.com. I'm Mark Elliott. Hey, our final segment's always a short one. And we know that Mindy and Nolan and the three girls, which are this year now 8th grade, 5th grade, and 3rd grade, had an opportunity because there's a company that helps financial advisors around the country that took them overseas. Tell us about your trip.
It was amazing. So we had the opportunity, like you said, Mark, to be able to go and visit over into Portugal. And it was the first time the girls actually have been out of the country. Been to Florida a couple times, and obviously, locally here in Michigan, and had a lot of fun in Ohio, as we've talked about previously, hiking. But this is one of the first times that we've taken them out of the country, so it was exciting even way back when we had to get them passports and everything. So they were super excited about that. But obviously, Mindy and I's concern was a little bit. It's a 5-hour time change ahead, right? So they're 5 hours ahead of us. And so we thought on the plane trip that might be an issue, but the girls did it so well. They handled it great, and it's one of those things that we had a great time. We went to a beach city called Algarve, and it was about 2.5 hours south of the capital, Lisbon. We collected some of the best shells ever on that beach, and it was gorgeous, and they had these rocks, and we went kayaking and paddleboarding, and just did some rock climbing and some cliff jumping. We tried packing a ton of. We're outside people, so we tried packing a ton of that stuff in, and fortunately for our 13-year-old daughter, she turned 13 over there, so it was kind of cool. We went to this little restaurant, and they brought out an ice cream treat, and we started saying happy birthday, but all the people around, because there's 3 restaurants right there in that little area, the whole crowd started saying happy birthday in Portuguese to her. So it's one of those things that you'll never, ever get to do again and never imagine. And then we went to Lisbon and spent some time there with some fellow advisors and learned some things, and to obviously help our clients a little bit better. And so that was different, right? It's a city, and there's a lot of culture there and older buildings and things of that nature. Went to an incredible zoo right across the street from where we were staying, and had this neat little tram that you'd go in the air. It was about a 15-minute thing, and you just would step in it, and then you went around the whole zoo and got to see creatures from overhead. So it was really, really amazing what we were able to see, and I think Mindy enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, and just to see their culture there, right? So to be able to have the opportunity to go with a company that we work with financially, to take our family along with us, and just to see the history there, and to really even have our girls absorb, like, what is it like living in another country, and how blessed, that we are here to live in America, and just how nice and kind the folks were there. But just even understanding, like, such a language barrier, like we only learned a couple Portuguese words, and just communication and how to communicate with folks. And it was so neat, everything that they had there, from seeing their city and the history and some of the castles and things that they had there, and then what some of their culture is, and then, also seeing what's, on the ocean and all their natural scenery. It was very breathtaking and super beautiful. I encourage anyone who can travel some to do so.
Yeah, that's an awesome trip, and it's an awesome trip for an 8th grader, a 5th grader, and a 3rd grader. And I'm not surprised at all that they did really well on this. And so, Nolan, think about this. A lot of people go, I don't know if I have enough money to retire in America. Maybe I need to go to a different country, Costa Rica, Honduras, or Portugal. You guys probably should do a lot of fortune, kind of go out and see and check things out at all these different places. So great trip. Congratulations. I'm glad that gets you ready to go now for as we head into, and of course, Mindy, for you, will be coming up October, 15th through December 7th, the open enrollment for Medicare. You're going to get really busy. So now you're rejuvenated. You're ready to go. If you have questions about anything, it's 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. And again, you can find out more at wealthmichigan.com.
McIntosh & Associates Incorporated is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM. AEWM and McIntosh & Associates Incorporated are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. McIntosh & Associates Incorporated is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by McIntosh & Associates Incorporated.